Hello everybody, my name is Alan, and welcome to another episode of Crimicide True Stories, the show where I take the best stories from our true scary stories and tell them to you guys. I know it's been a while since my last upload. It's been pretty insane. I just moved. I'm finally recording in my new apartment, so hopefully I'll be able to put up some more videos. Today's last story is going to be very interesting. It's not usually up my alley, but even it gave me the heebie-jeebies when I first heard it. And with that, let's get into today's stories. This first story is from a channel regular, Boppo the Mighty. I'm a graffiti artist. Before you judge me and say I'm a bad person or whatever, hear me out. I work on pieces in my city, Birmingham, in the United Kingdom. This happened a few weeks back. In the east side of the city, there is a canal that runs through the city, which is naturally full of tags and graffiti pieces, as it's a pretty quiet spot, but certain parts of it are visible to the public. It isn't easy to get down into the canal, but me and my friend, who's also into graffiti art, stumbled across a hidden ladder in a run-down car park on the back streets of the east side. We climbed down and realized we could walk up the whole length of the canals. The water was pretty high up on this day, so we had to be careful. After about 30 minutes, we had painted over old, ruined pieces of graffiti, creating new tags, and just generally had a good time. That's when we noticed the man standing on the other end of the water. At first we were startled, throwing our cans back into our backpack and getting ready to run, as we thought we were about to get caught. However, the man just stood there. For a long while, I stood watching him as he stared lifelessly at us. It was pretty unnerving. The guy had to be about 40 years old with gray hair, but he was standing so abnormally, his legs parted evenly and his arms parted from his body at his sides. He didn't move, he just stared. I looked at my friend, who I'll call Josh for the story, and he looked back at me, by the looks, unnerved. He decided to shout, "Hey!" at the man, and then, "You alright, buddy?" At first, I thought this was a bad idea, but I just let it happen to see the man's reaction. Nothing. He just stood there like a mannequin. We were pretty shaken up, but we just said to walk further along the canal and continue painting. About an hour later, we'd pretty much forgotten about the whole thing. We were down to our last 2 cans of paint, so we were about to call it a day, when I stepped back to see what we'd created. Just then, I noticed the same man from before, standing in the middle of the dirty canal, just staring lifelessly at us. I was so surprised to see him that I dropped my can into the canal and turned to face Josh. He noticed the man too. The man took the first step we'd seen him take all day, towards us. We dropped the cans and sprinted across the path back to the ladder. We pretty much ran all the way back to the city center where we caught our breath and tried to figure out what the hell we'd just experienced. Thank you for reading my story. I've got a bunch more true scary stories. If you'd like to read them, let me know. I've posted one here before. Just look for the tree carvings in Brecon Beacons, Wales. Thank you. Let me know if I should post more stories. Boppo/Jack. I think I definitely will record that story in another video. This next story is from Reddit user I Am Yarrow. When I was in college, my girlfriend at the time lived in an apartment off campus. The back door was in a closet-sized back room, which she kept a hide key in for when I came over. It sat on a very dusty wooden support beam nailed to the wall. One night, I came home and went to grab the key when it slipped out of my fingers, and I watched it fall into the very small, dusty space between the wall and the support beam. Frustrated, I knocked on the door, woke my girlfriend, and retrieved a knife to fish out the key tucked behind the support beam. When I went to stick the knife in, there wasn't a space between the wall and the support beam. It was totally snug. I was confused. I was 100% sure I just saw the key fall. I wiped away the dust, pulled on the beam, nothing. Completely solid and immovable. I remember stopping and thinking for a few minutes, completely dumbfounded and trying to process what I just experienced. Cut to me and my incredibly superstitious girlfriend searching for the key in the closet-sized back room. The key was gone. We searched for 45 minutes despite the back room being practically empty, apart from some unused shelves. She wouldn't let me stop looking. It was her only key and she was very scared. As I mentioned, she was very superstitious and was convinced the apartment was haunted. The next day, we got a replacement key and sort of forgot about the whole ordeal. Months later, we randomly found the missing key sitting carefully in the back room on the same beam I saw it fall through. From observation, it appeared to be sitting in the exact same spot it disappeared from, and seemingly even in the same position. I have zero explanation and zero valid guesses as to what I witnessed. I wonder if things disappear all the time, but most of them are just rocks and leaves and things you'd never notice. My girlfriend at the time was convinced it was a ghost. I think I'm more on the side of a, quote, glitch, unquote. This next story is from Reddit user Dirty Minded Rat and is honestly pretty serious. I and my mom live alone in a very safe neighborhood. There's only been 2 people who have died here, and only 1 murder, which happened in 2009. This happened in September 2022 when I was home alone. It was maybe 7 or 8 at night, so it was moderately dark but still light enough to see without a flashlight. Keep in mind, I already had suspected that someone had been stalking us before this incident. So I was doing my laundry, and our dryer is out in the shed, and I just walked down the stairs to the back door when I felt someone or something was watching me, either from behind the chicken coop or in the crawl space. I tried to call my best friend, but she wouldn't answer, so I just told myself there wasn't anything to worry about. I put the clothes in the dryer and was almost halfway back to the house when I heard this evil laugh, like a psychotic clown and a monkey mixed. I was frozen in fear, and to my surprise, was coming from behind the chicken coop. I ran inside on the verge of tears when I tried to call my brother, but he didn't pick up, so I called my mom. She told me to call the police, but I was scared. If they didn't find anything, I would get in trouble. I looked out the window and I saw my dog going in circles, and then it ran behind my chicken coop, exactly where I heard the noise. My brother got home a few minutes later and he could see my fear in my eyes. He grabbed his gun and searched the entire property in the pitch black. It's now March, and a few days ago I was making a video for fun, and I went out by my window. I saw a path leading from under the porch to my window, as if someone had been standing there. Things have also gone missing in our house before. Shoes, clothes, makeup, and food. We've also found things around our property like needles, dolls with only 1 leg, and even hair with what looked like pieces of scalp on it. And I've smelled some really weird smells near the woods. The lock on the door to the crawl space has opened and closed, even though nobody goes down there unless they have to. There's bed sheets covering a hole to see inside, and I'm too scared to look inside, because just days before they were put there, we all smelled something that smelled like death. I know this seems bad, but I hope that it's just a rat or something, because the thought of a body under my house is shuddering. We found multiple abandoned TVs, baby stuff like toys, bottles, cribs, and high chairs, and we've even found, like I said earlier, needles with a clear, thick substance in it, and dolls and child toys with only 1 leg. Should I tell the police, or is it just paranoia? Like I said in the beginning, yes, I'm only 12 years old, but please do not sugarcoat your response. I'm very mature for my age and can handle the truth, even if it's blood-curdling. Edit. I've already had an experience with stalking/squatting, but it's been nothing like this. Long story short, we found out after moving out of our old house that the owner was living in the attic crawl space. The only reason we found out is because we were driving in our old neighborhood and saw crime scene tape and a whole load of officers. Before we get into today's final story, if you enjoyed this video or any of my other videos, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe to show your support because it's really helpful. I'm nearing 300 subscribers, and that's just, for me, that's a big milestone. It's not a lot to, most people, but for me, it's a pretty big deal. So let's reach that goal and shoot for 400. And with that, let's get into today's final story. Today's final story is from Reddit user TadpolePractical2416. My story began in 1967, when I was 4 and my mom was 19. Happy Together by the Turtles played on the radio, and we had just moved into my mom's first apartment. We left the safety of my grandma's home and moved down the street, renting an apartment downstairs from my great-great-aunt Catherine. It was a big apartment, or so it seemed as I was only 4, and my room was off of the dining room. I was a quiet child with soft red curls and big blue eyes, and though I was a tomboy, bedtime terrified me. They called my experience night terrors, a figment of my imagination, awake nightmares, they said. But I knew better. The hands were real, and no amount of begging could convince my mother to let me sleep with her and my new stepdad. A 4-year-old's bladder fills quickly, and every night around 2 a.m. I would wake up desperately needing to pee. But I knew I needed to be quick. Looking down at the floor and seeing nothing, I made a beeline for the kitchen, where the bathroom was, but didn't even make it to the doorway of my room before the 2 hands and forearms rose up from the floor and grabbed my ankles. I shrieked with terror and ripped my foot away and ran into the bathroom, shutting the door behind me. I just made it without peeing my pants, thank God. I didn't want a spanking. Closing my eyes with relief, I thought about how I was going to get back into my bed without the hands grabbing me again. I would have to be fast. I tiptoed out of the kitchen, peering around the doorway to check on the floors. Clear. 1, 2, 3, go! I ran as fast as I could, leaping like a deer to my bed, but to my horror, I felt myself being wrapped up tight by the dining room curtains, which, with the help of the hands, had floated into my room. Through the curtains, the hands tickled me mercilessly, to the point of breathlessness and pain. After what seemed like an eternity, they were gone. Gasping for air, I scooped up my Gumby and Pokey figurines as they tried to comfort me. "Go to sleep now," they whispered. "They're gone." Night after night this happened, until one particularly bad night when the hands actually woke me up by coming out of my pillow and grabbing me by the neck, trying to pull me down into it. I couldn't breathe or scream, and just when I was about to pass out, they released me. Crying now, I leapt out of my bed, running to the doorway. I was about to risk the wrath of my mother until I saw something in the living room. Shadow people. A man with a hat holding a cane, a woman wearing an old-fashioned hat, and a tall, regal-looking dog sitting beside them on the floor. I couldn't see any features, just dark shadows. Strangely, I didn't feel afraid of them, quite the opposite. I felt comforted by their presence. I heard them talking, but didn't understand their dry, whispery words. I just knew in my head they were telling me not to be afraid. I nodded sleepily and went back to bed. That was the last night I saw them or the hands. Later in life, I found out something about that house. It was owned by my grandpa's great aunt and uncle, migrants from Austria, hard workers that purchased the house to pass on to relatives overseas so they could come to America as well and have a place to live. Even more amazing was the picture my grandmother saved. It was them. The man was dressed in a suit and tie and leaning on a cane, and sitting alongside him on a bench was a pretty woman with a beautiful hat and a dress that buttoned all the way up to her neck. Sitting on the ground looking up adoringly at the woman was a tall, white dog known as a Borzoi. So you tell me, night terror or a visit from the grave? Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I particularly enjoyed that last one. Although I may not really believe in the paranormal, I do love hearing paranormal stories. They're just really fascinating, and they're always just good reads. So again, if you really enjoyed this video and my other videos, feel free to like and subscribe, check out my other content, and now that I'm settled in my new place, hopefully I can get some more videos out a bit more regularly, instead of this once a month or once every 2 months thing I've been doing. I've been getting really lazy about it, and I should probably change that. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video.